to start with, I guess what would be the elephant in the room, the major physical transformation you've undergone over the past year. And but what I'm curious about is that effect on you as a musician, in the sense that over this past year, you were first undergoing dialysis and searching for a kidney donor, and then getting going through the surgery of getting a new kidney, and now you're in the recovery stage. And through all that, you put together this album and released this album. What I'm wondering is, I mean, because most people have a tough time in normal circumstances putting together and releasing an album. What was the
Right.
key for you for pushing forward with this release, all while undergoing all of that?
Well, I think the catalyst of this whole new record was my friendship with Holt William, who's a Raleigh singer-songwriter, producer, filmmaker, just an overall creative person. And the last few years, I got to know him through recording other projects. He did some audio engineering for Looking Glass, my
Hmm.
last record, and that was produced by Mark McKee out in LA. But we needed a remote location to finish the vocals, and Mark put me in touch with Holt William, who has a studio here in North Raleigh, and a home studio, and we hit it off. His He's a songwriter himself, a musician, and his music's very different from mine, but I really enjoy what he writes and stuff. And so when he approached me to see if I wanted to collaborate and write a song together, I said, yeah, let's see where this goes. And in January of 23 this year, we got together and we wrote She Rescued Me, like right out of the gate. It was very easy to write. It came out within about an hour and a half. We had a
Wow.
fully demoed out version of the song. And I said, wow, that went really well. We had high hopes for that song. We still do. But we were very excited with that. And we decided, hey, let's just keep it going. I already had a couple of songs, like What You Think About Baby, we released in January of 22 as a single. I had that, and I had Kissed by an Angel that I'd written on my own, just laying around. And I had the beginnings of Vegas, which
Hmm.
was at the time an unreleased song called Come On, Let's Go. I performed it a couple times with Liz Hopkins of Delta Rae, and she sang harmonies on it. And it was a totally different song, but a lot of the same lyrics ended up in the song Vegas. So what happened was we just kept working together in between. I was still up until my surgery a full-time musician. I had cut back on the gigging a little bit, but I had a little bit more time to collaborate with Holt and work
Hmm.
on the production of the record. And basically, with two little kids at home and a wife, whenever I had some spare time, I would head over to Holt's, which wasn't all the time because I'm pretty busy. The kids keep me busy, especially.
Yeah.
So, um, what the time that we spent together over this course of the last 9 months was, you know, it was before April was my original surgery date, and we didn't think like at all that we could get a record done before
Hmm.
April. But when my original surgery was postponed, we were like, silver lining. Uh, we have time to work on the record and maybe get it out before my next surgery. I didn't know when that surgery was going to be. Turned out to be August 16th, but before August 16th, we pretty much had the record in the can. We just had to get it mastered. So it was a kind of a blessing in disguise, the surgery being postponed. Not only the fact that I was able to put the record together before the surgery, but I also got a much better kidney that was matched for me out of it, and
Okay.
it's doing really well. So
Yeah, that is one of the biggest, all right, most interesting blessing in disguise I've ever heard of. Our
yeah,
surgery was postponed, it's which,
right, right,
I mean, I understand what you're saying, but
yeah.
wow, that's quite the spin of optimism. But I'm glad it did work out for all of that.
It was
Um,
pretty devastating. So you kind of have to like reach for silver linings. It was literally 10 days before my surgery. And
hmm,
not only was I mentally preparing myself for the first major surgery, I never had any surgery before,
yeah.
but especially one of this magnitude, I was it was definitely like an emotional moment finding out that I was not going to get the kidney 10 days before my surgery.
Hmm.
And I had to push through that. And music always helps me when I go through stuff like that. So I kind of turned not only to my family, but for support, but through the creative process of making this record, it really helped me keep my mind focused elsewhere and not like, when is the next match going to come? Will it come? We'll have to start dialysis, etc. So yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely had to keep the positive attitude for sure.
Okay. Okay. Um, and all right. Well, you mentioned a litany of things that I wanted to touch on
Yeah.
with all of these different songs. So first of all, you co-wrote, these songs as you were talking about with Holt and with other people.
Hmm.
And I'm curious, typically when it comes to songwriting, what do you usually bring to the table and what do you look for in a co-writer?
Um, I think at this point I'm pretty good at bringing a melody to the table. When I'm writing my own song, it's all, I have to write all the lyrics myself. When you're co-writing, it's really easy to bounce off of somebody else lyrically.
Hmm.
Um, for instance, "All I Need," which was the single in April that we released, Holt came up with the origins of the song, the guitar chords, and the first two lines, um, like a heart that starts to skip a beat.
Hmm.
And he also had the second line, or a crowd that gets up on their feet. And that's all he had. And I really liked those first two lines. And we kind of had to decide, where was this? What is this song about? Is it about playing a show to a receptive crowd who's really into the music, or is it going to turn into a love song? And in the process of coming up with the lyrics, I was literally just sitting there on the couch singing along to whenever we would write a lyric, I would come up with the melody at that same moment. And then out of nowhere, the chorus kind of hit me, and we were like, "Oh, I think we have a song here." So that's where, when you're bouncing lyrics off of somebody else, it's really easy to just move through the song into finding that melody
Hmm.
right away. In my
Okay.
opinion, if you have the structure of the lyrics and where you're going with the story of the song, the melody kind of just comes a lot easier right in that moment.
Oh, okay. And so usually the lyrics are the catalyst for everything for you?
For me, I write all my lyrics if I'm writing a song by myself or even with a collaboration. Usually, if I'm bringing the original song idea to the table lyrically, all my lyrics, or a lot of the lyrics, are written
Hmm.
usually on my on my iPhone, and I
No.
I can just scroll through all my notes and just say, "What about this? What about this?"
Out of
So
curiosity, do you put it on the phone just A, so that you always have them with them, and or B, so that whenever inspiration strikes, you don't have to go looking for a paper or tape recorder or anything?
both of those, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the convenience. I used to keep a songwriting journal for years, and I've moved around a lot, so it's probably in a box somewhere. A couple of the journals are in boxes somewhere, and I could always go out and buy one. But in the moment, and especially today, everybody has their cell phone on them, like you said.
Yeah.
It's there in your pocket usually, and you can just pull it out at any moment you feel inspired to write. Jot down a couple of lines here and there, and you can even do
Hmm.
voice memos, which can capture the melody that's swimming through your head in the moment.
Yeah.
It's just really convenient, definitely.
Yeah. And then you brought up the song All I Need, and there's this, it's a kind of a really I don't know how to phrase this well. It's like bubbling emotion to the song. It's like, it's about to explode, but it's also restrained at the same time.
Yeah.
And when I listened to that, I couldn't help but think, I think a lot of people would have oversung that song, just
Yeah.
gone full bore. But I think what makes it especially cool is you, or the character in the song, is wrestling with this stuff, and it kind of comes through like, all right, I've got these intense feelings, but I'm also holding back.
Hmm.
And how does one learn to do that? And is that just a matter of, um I don't know, could you have done that, or would you have done that earlier in your career, or does it come with all this experience?
That comes with Holt's production of the song, because I'm
Oh.
basically singing along to what he is producing. Um, Holt pretty much laid down all the instrumentation on that. And what we did in the demo of it is 90% of what you hear on the record.
Mm.
So what he laid down sonically for me was, so easy to just sing along to. He made it very, very easy. He kind of mapped it out, and I just took that and just saying what I thought would be appropriate for it. One interesting idea that I hadn't done before that Holt brought to the table was right after the first verse, it goes into the chords of the chorus, but I'm not singing the chorus. It goes into like the heavy guitar
Yeah.
that you hear later throughout the song as the chorus. But he goes, "What if we just hold off on singing the chorus right after the
Mm.
first verse?" And when I was in the vocal booth, I just kind of let out just a whoo.
Hmm.
We layered that halfway through the what would be the chorus, and then when we hit the actual chorus after the second verse, it's a bit greater impact, I think.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Yeah.
and then when Doug Castine laid down the what I consider an epic guitar solo on that song, that's that's where the song peaks,
Hmm.
and where you said maybe another singer might be over singing it. We try to build it to that guitar solo and then let Doug just unleash. We actually kind of all three of us collaborated on what he should play on that.
Oh, and
Um,
being
but
a
he definitely made it his own.
okay.
I
Well,
had I had an idea on the demo, and I'm not
hmm
the best lead guitar player, but the opening hook on the guitar solo, I really wanted to hear that, and I had Doug do it over and over again until he got it right, in my opinion. And then I let him do right after that first riff, he does the rest, and then Holt brought a second idea to it that's underlying what Doug's playing, but Doug is still playing a second part underneath it to help it build to the very crescendo of the solo, and then it just all drops off, and I sing a very soft vocal for the chorus after the guitar solo. So it has, in my opinion, it has a great impact to the song.
and then when you're, I mean, being a guitarist, when you're telling Doug what you want, do you do it by playing it, or is there, kind of a verbal shorthand that you can give him?
Just for that opening riff, I would play it and say, "This is what I'm looking for," because I
Mhm.
knew what I was doing there. I don't. The rest of the solo on the demo was just me just noodling on the guitar because it was literally a space filler until Doug got there.
Yeah.
But that opening riff I really liked, and he basically recreated it but put his own twist on it, which I liked even more.
Yeah. And I wonder, because it brings up the fact that you've got, besides Doug, you have a number of experienced heavyweight musicians backing you up on this album. Band members from Train, from Delta Rae, and if I mean, I've never recorded now. If it were me, I would be kind of intimidated to tell those people what to do, and so I'm wondering, how do you direct them? And what do you say to them with, all right, this is what I'm looking for, or tell like a Doug, nah, you don't quite have it yet.
Right. Well, for What You Think About Baby, that features a lot of different musicians. I produced that one myself, and Holt basically engineered the whole session. And it was multiple sessions, of course, based on everybody's schedules. But it was all a feeling. It was the first time I ever wanted to try to experience or experiment with a horn section on one of my songs. And for that, I just enlisted the help of my Grammy nominated artist friend, Matt Cousin, who just is just an overall phenomenal keyboard player, pianist, guitar
Hmm.
player, vocalist, harmonizer. And I just said, "Hey, man, this is what I'm looking for." I sent him the demo of the song, and he sent back in MIDI, basically on keys, a horn section. That blew my mind. I was like, "Wow, okay." Now to get somebody to actually record these horns, and Matt facilitated that by introducing me to a friend of his out of Atlanta who put together all the horns from Atlanta and then sent all the stems back up to Raleigh to mix.
Okay.
But so that part of the song I let Matt basically produce. The rest of it was just, all of us sitting in the studio at different times saying, "All right, Brandon Venable, a phenomenal bass player. He's been in the Jason Adamo band for 10 years on and off." And I said, "Do your thing, man." And if he did 99% of what he wanted to do, and I just put my 2 cents in here and there. I said, maybe just do this at this point, maybe do that at this point. And that's how it went for the rest of the song. Liz Hopkins of Delta Rae came in and just, she did all, she'd been singing this song, What You Think About Baby, for 10 years. So she knew her parts very well. She knew Brittany's parts, Eric Holges's parts. She sang the 3-part harmony. And then we just sent her back in the vocal booth and said, let's do what we call a party track, where she just improvises stuff throughout the whole song. And then we take little snippets here and there. So, so what you hear Liz in the background singing is 10% of what she actually sang on the party track, but we just pick and chose what we wanted to really help the song out. And I think it really did when she kind of echoes some of the things that I sing in the song. And we also brought in Julie McKnight to re-record one of the harmonies that Liz helped lay down as basically a guide vocal. And Julie's a phenomenal artist. Mike McKee from Delta Rae had been playing the song for 10 years. He did about 5 or 6 different takes of the song on the drums. And the very last one, so we recorded this at Holt's home studio, and the drums were in the living room downstairs. And I went down there, I said, let me talk to Mike real quick. I said, Mike, play the crap out of the drums on this last and that take is what you hear on the record. He's really just going at it on the drums, and it just really cuts through on the song very nicely.
I mean, well, that's the thing. There's a lot of power coming through that tone. And as the lead vocal on that, how do you prepare to record that? Because it seems like something, you can't just saunter into the studio and then let it fly. I don't know. It just seems like something you've got to, is there warm-ups involved? Because there's a lot going on in that lead vocal.
Well, I'd been lucky enough to be invited to sing that song with Delta Rae before. We did an outdoor show at NC State called Packapalooza in 2019, and Ian couldn't make the show, so I sang What You Think About Baby. I sang Dance in the Graveyards, and then I did Joe Cocker's Little Help from My Friends with Delta Rae. And after that, I was like, oh, I love this, because I had to learn What You Think About Baby. I didn't know, and I had to learn Dance in the Graveyards. I hadn't performed either of those before that show. And I just fell in love with What You Think About Baby, and I started singing it at my own shows. But what I did was drop it a whole step down, because Ian's voice is very comfortable here. And mine is, especially for that song, he sings it in A, I sing it in G, a whole step down, and it's way more in my comfort zone, and it allows me to hit the higher notes a lot easier in the song. So that's the first thing I did. It not only my live performances of the song, but when we headed into the studio. So my version of What You Think About Baby is a whole step down from Delta Rae's. They never released it, but they had a demo that was, considered for release, and I listened to that.
But I mean, it also brings out, like, the first time I saw you was you sang that with Delta Rae at that music festival, and again, there you go.
That was fun.
Yeah. And, kudos to you, because it was like 150 degrees at the time you were on stage. But I'm curious, as a singer, how do you prep for that? Because, like, you walked on, they had been singing and performing, then they invited you. You walk on, and this is your first thing, coming in. How do you come in cold for a song like that? It's
the Packapalooza was a good warm up for that. That was a huge crowd on Fayetteville Street. Not Fayetteville Street, sorry, Hillsborough Street. And even with that, and a couple of other times, we opened up for them at the Ritz, and Doug and I got on stage for Dance in the Graveyards at the end. We were kind of just messing around. We weren't like taking a solo or anything. But it was just it's very intimidating to get on stage with those guys, because they're all powerhouse vocalists, and their harmonies are incredible, and I can barely sing a harmony, so it's intimidating. As long as they give me a chance to sing the lead, I'm way more comfortable. So luckily that's what they've done the few times that I've joined them on stage. But for that performance, I had just performed on the side stage, and then we had to really speed it up to head down to make it. I think the What You Think About Baby was like the third or fourth song.
Mm-hmm.
We had to basically strike our instruments off the side stage, and then walk down to the baseball field
Yeah.
stage. And it's like you said, in the heat too. And then when you get backstage before a crowd like that, especially with a band like that, the nerves start hitting you. And as soon as I hit that first note or first line, I felt okay. But it was also cool having Doug on stage as well. He played the guitar part and solo on that.
Cool.
What You Think About Baby at that.
Yeah.
So that was turned out to be a great experience. It was awesome hanging out with my friends in Delta Rae afterwards too. We went out to eat and stuff, so it was cool.
And then talking about staying with the topic of interesting vocals on the song on this album, Right for You, there's this kind of um, ghostly backing vocal harmony you seem to do with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I mean, it's not like a typical backing vocal track. There again, there's something it's like it's there but not there. There's something wispy and intangible about it. I'm curious how you guys pulled that off.
That's all Holt William.
Okay.
Yeah, he. I went in there, so I've recorded that vocal on a 57, a Shure 57. I'm not sure if you know
I
what that
know.
is, but it's usually a mic that's reserved for instrumentation or a guitar amp or a snare drum in the studio.
Okay.
Back in the 70s and 80s, live vocalists, some especially punk rock vocalists would prefer that mic. I'm not sure why. I guess it's a certain tone they're going for, but Holt. I went into the vocal booth and I saw a 57 set up, and I was like, "Oh, okay. Do you need to come in and change the mic?" I was thinking to myself, and I said on the talkback mic, I said, "Are we using this mic?" He goes, "Yep." And it worked out really well because it's kind of like a whisper vocal at
Yeah.
times. And I just basically laid down 90% of what you hear on the record on that demo take. We
Oh
tried to do
wow.
several other takes down the road as a finished vocal, and we had demoitis where we just fell in love with the original vocal. But the production in that song, right after we did the original demo of that, Holt just stayed at its house for the rest of the day and banged out pretty much the rest of the song. We
No,
had
wow.
Castine come in and lay down another acoustic track on there,
Mm-hmm.
a couple of other acoustic tracks on there. But the production that you hear, like the delay that you're speaking of, that's all Holt. He just takes a snippet of one of the lines, copies it, and puts a whole different effect on it, and it creates that cool effect. And he used it throughout a lot of the song. I asked him to dial it back on a couple of lines because it kind of got, in my opinion, a little bit too much.
Hmm.
But I think we've found a compromise, and it turned out really well.
Nice. No, it did. It's a really cool effect. And then most of the songs on this are written from a first person perspective. The one exception being Kiss by an Angel, which is written about someone else. And I'm curious with that one, was that written about someone in particular or just a type of person that you know or grew up with?
Well, my mom passed in 2019 of cancer, and my dad is a full-blooded Italian, man of very few words, doesn't express his emotions all that often, and it's the genesis of the song basically is what I think that some people, not in particularly my dad, but especially somebody who's maybe getting closer to death and maybe even on his deathbed, just going through some of his regrets he might have
Hmm.
from his life, especially the love of his life. That I was writing it from the perspective of my observation of a widower who
Mm-hmm.
lost his wife maybe decades before, or at least several years before he meets his fate, basically, and what he might be thinking as he's hopefully getting ready to see his angel again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And this is not your first album, but you titled this one is self-titled, just Jason Adamo, and I'm curious why this one, because that's
Yeah.
kind of a I don't know, at least with a lot of musicians, that's where it's like if it's not their first album, then when they finally come along, it's like, all right, this is me.
Well, like I said, Holt and I started collaborating together outside of the Jason Adamo band. Um, and it was when we decided to name the record, it was kind of like I hadn't put out anything solo in 15 years. And that was called Sunflower in 2008. So
Hmm.
when we thought of, we looked at the lyrics that in all the songs, we looked at the song titles themselves. We looked at the ideas of each song. For instance, in 2012, we had the single was called Foundation, so we stole from that. It doesn't mention the words bricks and mortar, but the 2012 record was called Bricks and Mortar, based on that song.
Yeah.
We went through all the lyrics looking for something like that, and I think it was me out of nowhere. I just said, "Well, this is kind of like a coming out party, as my first solo record in 2015, or in 15 years since
Yeah.
2008. Let's just call it Jason Adamo because it's just a return to me as a songwriter, as the main songwriter on it."
Right. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
This one's just kind of a I don't know, it's maybe it's just silly, and maybe it's just me reading into things way too much. um at the beginning of the video for She Rescued Me, it starts with you dialing on a landline phone, which anyone younger than us may not even recognize, for one thing. um but that I certainly grew up with. But what I'm curious about is there's like a pattern to pressing the keys. Are those notes from the song?
That's my parents' home phone number.
Oh, okay.
That is no longer connected, but it is forever ingrained. I'm sure yours is as well, in all of our minds, for those of us who grew up with those types of phones, and a home phone number to call in case of emergency or whatever. Mom, come get me from soccer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have that number and my aunt and uncle's number memorized, and nothing else.
I That's funny because my wife and I were talking about this kind of thing with people recently, and how growing up in the day and age, you used to remember a lot of phone numbers and things like
Oh
that.
yeah.
And yeah, I can still remember my original family home phone number back in California, and
Oh yeah.
which also doesn't exist anymore. um but okay, I don't know. It's like he went through that pretty quickly, and I didn't know if you were just like randomly hitting buttons or something. So
Yeah,
no,
that
that's
whole idea to even use the landline was like as I was pretty much getting ready to walk out the door at Holt's. Um, we had the song coming out as a single in March 17th, and we wanted to have at least something to put out there video wise, just to try to create a buzz for it. And Holt has his 6K camera that he shoots a lot of music videos for bands around here. And I said, well, let's just put something together. And I ran through the song 3 times, once standing with a guitar, or twice standing with a guitar. And once I said, oh, let's just pretend I'm calling somebody and telling them the story about how she rescued me. And
yeah.
kind of edit it all together in a day or two. And we put it out maybe like a week before the record, or the week after the record came out, or the single came out. So that one was kind of thrown together for All I Need. That video, we really wanted to do some cool production of that. So we took our time with All I Need, and She Rescued Me was literally done in about half an hour. Yeah.
And then why the use of the old landline phone rather than
It,
just
it was just sitting there.
okay.
It wasn't plugged in anything, and it was just on his table in his living room next to a chair that looked comfortable for the next take. So
Yeah. I mean, it does work better as a prop, I would say, than
yeah, right,
like an iPhone or something, which you can barely see. So
right. Yeah, definitely. We have one of those old landlines just as a decoration in our house. My girls love playing with it.
nice, nice. I used to have when I was in college. I mean, not only do we have landline phones, but I had one that it was a Lego phone, so you could like put Lego pieces on it
Oh,
as you
nice.
were. So
I had the one that was, you could see the inside of it. And
oh yeah, yeah.
it rang, it lit up like a blue neon color.
Right, right, yeah. So, in between taping songs off the radio with my cassette tapes, I would use that, phone. So
I would always record the high five at 10 on K92 in
uh
Southwest Virginia,
okay.
top 40 station.
See, I grew up in Southern California, where the radio station KLOS had was called The Seventh Day with Joe Benson, and they would play whole albums
Oh, nice.
um, on Sundays, and you'd know the lineup ahead of time. You're like, "Ooh, cool! I'm curious about that one," and so
Well, that's one thing I love about that station. They do that kind of thing Saturday nights. They play anniversaries of some epic albums that have come out over the years, and they just play
yes,
the entirety of the record all the way through. And not many radio stations do that anymore.
no, it because I was driving around with my wife, and they like played two Stone songs back to back, and I'm like, I think they're playing the album, and then that went back to that whole conversation.
Yeah, that's
Um, no, it's and growing up in that day and age, I'm still an album guy where and I'm curious to listen to this when it does come out on CD and vinyl, because streaming's good, but it still doesn't give you the full experience in my
right, right.
in my
This is
opinion.
going to be the first time I'm pressing vinyl. My good friend Adam Lindstedt with the Poorhouse Music Hall and
Mm-hmm.
his wife Lacey, they recently started Poorhouse Pressing Plant with a local vinyl pressing plant, which is awesome. That
Nice.
something that Raleigh needs, especially it's affordable and it's exciting for me because I remember spinning those records as a kid, and I have had one of my songs. That song Foundation was on a collaboration effort on a vinyl. So I have heard one of my songs on vinyl, but it would be cool to have the whole artwork and all 7 songs on the record. It's gonna be pretty cool. It should be coming out in October.
Yes. All right. Nice. But I think I saw it's available for order already. You can pre-order that though, right?
Through my website, yes,
Yeah.
jasonadamo.com. You can pre-order CDs, which should be here next week, and vinyl.
Okay. Nice. And then it's kind of to bring things full circle. I've yet to talk with a musician that just came out of surgery, so this is kind of new for me, and I'm just curious about, what you were talking about, looking for silver linings, and the help that, this working on this album gave you when your surgery was originally delayed.
Hmm.
You know, I would think there's nothing like a kidney transplant to change your focus and change your perspective, and really, get inside your head as far as how you look at the world. And I'm just curious, now that you're on the other side of this,
Right.
I don't know, what does it change for you as a musician, if at all?
I think knowing that I had a surgery coming up, like I said, the first any type of surgery I've ever had, let alone something like a kidney transplant, it was very intimidating and scary at times. And it made me think about, what I've created as an artist, what I can still create before the surgery. That's what really kind of made me bust my bum with Holt to get this record out or done before the surgery, because you
Mm,
never know what's going to happen. You never know when you have a surgery of that type. Luckily there was no complications when I had my surgery, and I woke up in the regular recovery room, not the ICU room, which I already knew was a good a good sign. It made me think a lot about my daughters and my wife and what's really important in life. And I at this time it's really tough because I have the immune system of a newborn baby, and my kids are 2.5 and almost 5, and they're just like petri dishes
yes,
going to
especially with
daycare.
school back in session and
Yeah,
such.
yeah. One of my 2.5-year-old has a fever today, so I'm
Oh,
locked in this guest room right here. Um, this is where I spent a lot of time because last week they both had coughs and colds, and
mm,
I have to be very careful especially for the first 3 months, because the drug intake right now in the first 3 months is so high, it's pushing my immune system down to stop my body from rejecting this kidney. So
right.
I miss them dearly, and getting to see them is great. They come to that little door right there, and they
Hmm.
maybe sometimes open it and say, "Love you, Daddy," and stuff. But the incision is keeping me from being able to pick them up for 6 months too.
Oh, wow.
It's really tough with
Yeah.
little girls. Um, it's the perspective thing has really changed for sure, for sure. It's I'm missing performing. This is happening soon. We were supposed to play the NC State Fair. I had to cancel that. Totally worth it because I had a life-saving kidney transplant.
Right.
But it also, it is tough because it's what I love to do the
And
most in life is play music, especially for people who are connecting to the music.
and
So,
how long before you'll be, given the okay to play live again?
well, I have an appointment Thursday of this week, and I have a tentatively scheduled outdoor stage far away from people performance at Dorothea Dix in October that I hope to get cleared for by my doctor Thursday. But if he says, I'll hold off on that for a little bit longer, which he may say, it'll probably be till November. And even then, with my immune system the way it is, I have to only book outdoor shows. And so by November, it's going to be tough to do those, even in
Mm.
North Carolina, because some Novembers feel like spring or summer around here, but
Right, right.
some of them feel like winter.
Ah,
So,
yes. Yes.
see how the weather goes, and we'll see how my doctor is assessing the situation. But I have a songwriters in the round show, but February 3rd.
Okay.
By that time, my immune system will be, a lot better, and I'm excited to put that together again at Cary Theater. Um, I have a Poorhouse Music Hall show on the books in January, late January, and by then I should be able to perform with the band, and maybe not get into it as much as I pre-surgery would, but
Mm.
maybe I'll be sitting on a stool, for instance, or something like
Yeah.
that. I'll let the guys do all the jumping around and sweating and all that stuff.
Right, right.